Three, two, one. Kazi Akbar. Dude, I've literally forgotten how to do this. But here's to hoping muscle memory kicks in sooner rather than later because we're doing this. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to. Assalamu alaikum ji. Welcome back to another episode of Kahe, Kazi. I'm Kazi, and your guest today is me. I'm the guest because. So I'll get into why a little bit later. I'll also get into where I've been, and then what we're going to do is I've never done this before on the podcast. What we're going to do is we're going to get into 5 things I learned through the year of 2022. अभी तक ख़त्म नहीं हुआ है, अल्लाह रहम करे, खैर से जाए जितना भी अब बचा है. But I learned quite a bit and it was very, very interesting. And so sit back, get a drink and or get food. If you're listening on audio platforms, तो फिर तो आप मतलब देखने की भी ज़रूरत नहीं है आपको, right? But if you're watching on YouTube, I'm going to put some sections in, inshallah. I've never done that before either. I promised I wouldn't, but people change, right? People change. So I'm going to put some timestamps in. I'm just going to recount the journey as it's been since the last podcast, which was posted about 6 months ago, really quickly, क्योंकि वो podcast थी मेरे कराची वाले स्टूडियो में. तो हुआ कुछ ऐसा कि मुझे पॉडकास्ट रोकनी इसलिए पड़ी क्योंकि मैं जहाँ रहता था वहीं पे मेरा पॉडकास्ट स्टूडियो था. लाइक इट वाज द सेम लिविंग सिचुएशन और साइड में ही स्टूडियो था. एंड द कॉन्ट्रैक्ट वाज गुड फॉर अनदर 6 months, लेकिन जो मालिक मकान थे, जो ओनर थे, उन्होंने वो कॉन्ट्रैक्ट एक तरीके उन्हें वायलेट नहीं किया कॉन्ट्रैक्ट. तो जो भी घर रेंट करते हैं, जो भी किराए के मकान पे रहते हैं पाकिस्तान में, उनको ये पता होगा कि जब आप मुझे नहीं पता था लेकिन आपको ज़रूर पता होगा इंशाल्लाह कि जब भी आप घर रेंट करते हैं तो उसमें एक क्लॉज होता है दैट स्टेट्स दैट इफ़ द ओनर शुड सो चूज़ they could ask the tenant to vacate the premises on a month's notice. Now, a month is very little time to find another location, or at least for me it was, right? And primarily because not only was my living situation in that space, but also my studio was in that space. And I put a little bit of effort into the studio. And this is not to say कि मुझे मतलब दुनियावी चीज़ें हैं यार, चीज़ें ही हैं, अल्लाह का शुक्र है, जान का खैर हो, अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह सब सही है. लेकिन the thing with the studio was it took a lot of building, and as a result it couldn't just be taken apart and put somewhere else within that month. So and as ये जो कॉन्ट्रैक्ट में जो क्लॉज होता है ज़्यादातर ये नहीं अवेल करते हैं मालिक मकान, इस चीज़ को अच्छा नहीं समझा जाता है. पर बहरहाल जो हज़रत थे, he had extenuating circumstances, I suppose, if I want to give him that grace. Some days I don't because there was a little bit of difficulty afterwards. Allah ka shukr hai, sab sahi hai, but there was a little bit of difficulty afterwards. And as a result, the podcast had to go on into hiatus indefinitely. You know, this is all of a sudden now I felt at least I should give you guys an update and maybe evolve the podcast because I've been very rigid with the podcast. मैं बहुत सख्त रहा हूँ अपने कायदों पर कि ना टॉपिक टाइटल में डाला जाएगा और ना टाइम स्टैम्प्स डाले जाएंगे और इस किस्म की कोई भी चीज़ नहीं की जाएगी. गुफ्तगू पे जो है तवज्जो दी जाएगी कॉन्स्टेंटली, एंड दैट्स स्टिल द केस. लेकिन अब शायद मैं ऐसा सोचता हूँ कि गेस्ट के साथ गुफ्तगू के साथ साथ मेरे ख्याल में आपके साथ भी गुफ्तगू करनी चाहिए मुझे अब इंशाल्लाह. एंड more on that later, but essentially I don't want to leave you on a cliffhanger. Essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an email address. I'm going to give you this email address and then you can write in your queries and your questions to me and I'll respond to them in this kind of a setup, right? Just a mic in my hand, and mic मेरे हाथ में इसलिए है क्योंकि I have move के दौरान I also misplaced the mic stands. And you know, आप लोग जो I got sidetracked again as I do. आप लोगों को आदत होगी, लेकिन the content I've been making recently, the short form videos and stuff, वो काफ़ी scripted होते हैं. And that is also why I wondered कि ये मैं कर भी सकूँगा या नहीं, क्योंकि podcast या जहाँ तक मैंने पॉडकास्ट की है या करना सीखा है या सोचा है, वो इसी तरीके से होता था हमेशा कि you just go, you just do the podcast, right? You just talk, and you go where you go. But Behral, so I was asked to vacate the premises, and I thought about quite a few things कि किस तरीके से इस चीज़ how do I deal with this? But at the end, जो चीज़ मुझे ये समझ आई वो यही थी कि I should pack up everything. I should not, अगर मालिक मकान कह रहा है कि आप खाली कर दो मकान को, तो ज़रूर उसकी भी मजबूरी ही होगी ना, वो मतलब why else would he, right? Like, I hope that's what his situation was. Anyhow, what I did was I packed up the whole house, and that includes all my podcast equipment, all the rest of it, all my cameras, everything. Alhamdulillah, I have those things. I packed all of them up and I came to Hyderabad. Hyderabad is the city that I was born in, and it is where my family resides even today. Alhamdulillah. So, abhi jo hai, I don't have a studio, and that's also part of the reason why I couldn't continue the podcast, couldn't start it up again, because there was no studio. और जहाँ आई हैव बिन स्पीकिंग अबाउट नॉट बीइंग सो रिजिड, आपको याद होगा कि पॉडकास्ट शुरू हुई, आप लोगों को तो याद होगा, अगर नहीं याद है मैं याद दिलाता चलूँ कि पॉडकास्ट शुरू हुई थी सख्त लॉकडाउन के दौरान, और तब भी एक जो प्रिंसिपल था जिसको हमने नहीं तोड़ना था, वो यही था कि पॉडकास्ट होगी तो रूबरू होगी, इट विल बी इन पर्सन, इट विल नॉट बी ऑनलाइन. एंड सो आई कुडंट शिफ्ट द पॉडकास्ट ऑनलाइन, डिडंट वांट टू, and I didn't have a studio to do the podcast. अभी भी मैं किसी के कमरे में बैठा हूँ, and if they come in, ये पीछे दरवाज़ा है, if they come in they'll come in, and you know but I've told them that I'm going to be recording, but if they come in, they come in, and you know, they'll just be in the back, and hopefully that won't be too much of a problem. So well, I came back to Hyderabad, couldn't do the podcast because I didn't have a studio, and then I did flirt with the idea. एक तो लोग फ्लर्ट पता नहीं क्यों बोलते हैं. What do you mean flirted with the idea? How about, you know, tangoed? Can I say danced with the idea? I danced with the idea of doing it in another person's space. And you know, there are some wonderful people in Karachi जिन्होंने बोला कि हाँ आप यहाँ पे कर लो, लेकिन that commute alone is quite difficult to do at a moment's notice. इतना दूर नहीं है, सिर्फ तकरीबन 2.5 से 3 घंटे लगते हैं पहुंचने में, लेकिन रोज़ करना, वहाँ पे फिर रिहाइश का कैसे sort out होता, ये सब चीज़ें, you know, where would I live, and so on and so forth, and these were definitely concerns. तो बहरहाल I came back to Hyderabad, and I decided to put the podcast on hiatus. Didn't want to go mobile also because financially it didn't make sense, because घर में रहते हुए भी the podcast used to cost a lot to produce, you know, and that's something that people just aren't privy to, is it takes a bit of money. इतना सस्ता नहीं होता है, right? And well, I mean, I have been very vocal about how it's interesting that people in Pakistan are not empathetic at all to other people trying to make money. जैसे इंस्टाग्राम पे जो शॉर्ट वीडियोस की मैंने अभी थोड़ी देर पहले जिक्र किया, उस पर भी आता हूँ, उसकी वजह से मुझे कुछ पेड जब गिग्स मिले और वो जो मैंने पोस्ट किए, तो some people straight up in the comment section were like, we didn't sign up to watch ads, I am unfollowing you. And उस वीडियो में, that video, one of those videos was about most of those videos were about educational content nonetheless. It's just that they were paid. And so it's interesting. You follow people here, especially in Pakistan, क्योंकि बाहर ऐसा नहीं होता है. You follow people here, and yet you don't want them to do well financially. And that really, it strikes me. That's interesting, that you don't want them to do well. Yeah. So it didn't make sense financially to do the podcast mobile, which is, you know, I lug the equipment to whoever's place of business or residence जिनके पास मुझे जाके podcast करनी है, वहाँ जाऊँ हैदराबाद से, रिकॉर्ड करूँ, फिर वापस आऊँ, फिर एडिट करूँ, फिर it I think would become too much. और इसी के दौरान जो शॉर्ट फॉर्म कंटेंट मैं बना रहा था इंस्टाग्राम के लिए और टिकटॉक के लिए, वो सही चल रहा था अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह. और सही चलने के साथ साथ आई फेल्ट, क्योंकि गोल पॉडकास्ट का भी यही था, अलॉन्ग फाइनेंशियल रैमिफिकेशन और फाइनेंशियल इंडिपेंडेंस, वो तो था ही, जाहिर होता है, हमेशा ही होता है, होना चाहिए. किसी का अगर, पहली बात तो इस चीज़ को बुरा नहीं समझना चाहिए. किसी का अगर होता है तो इट्स अ गुड थिंग, हर किसी का ही होना चाहिए. बट along that, right, that always is something that everyone should strive towards. But along that, the hope and the goal was to be a force of net good, right? कि कुछ अच्छा काम करें मुआशरे में. And to that end, the short form content served as semantic distinctions, जहाँ पे I go in, कोई किस्म का colloquialism में उठाता हूँ, कोई slang उठाता हूँ, and then I try to unpack it, कि इस चीज़ के माने क्या हैं, इस चीज़ के मतलब क्या हैं, and so on and so forth. And as you can imagine, उस चीज़ के लिए काफ़ी rigid और structured video होनी पड़ती है. And I was always used to this, just talking, the uhs, the ums. I wouldn't edit any of it out. Nothing, right? I'm notorious for even leaving in entire breaks and entire, just entire spaces where बिल्कुल unintelligible गुफ्तगू हो रही है ना, हंस रहे हैं, लड़ रहे हैं, जो भी. Because I always thought that was authentic conversation, right? खैर, the short form contents are doing well, and alhamdulillah, I try to focus on that. But I felt I should also, to the best of my ability, move this along as well. And because whoever knows me from the Instagram content, I feel like they've just now started to uh, you know get to know me, and they're acquaintances and friends at best. But you people are like family, right? Because you've seen hours and hours. If you've been following this podcast from the beginning, आप लोगों ने बड़ी हर किस्म की सिलीनेस मेरे से देखी है, हर किस्म की गलती मेरे से देखी है, माफ़ की है. And yet you've stuck around, alhamdulillah, and I can't thank you enough for it. And this is not to say at all that I don't have immense love for the people who've come here, or who are from Instagram or TikTok or what have you. It just means that, I didn't want to let you guys feel that I had forgotten. I hadn't forgotten. I just wasn't in a situation where I could record this stuff. Like even as casual as this, right? Just turn a light on, set up a camera, and start recording. Even this was difficult. But Allah karega aage aasani hogi inshallah. And we're going to try to do this a little bit. And like I said, if we don't get guests, we'll just talk to each other. And I'll try to do this at least once a week. Again, links to everything will be in the description. ऐसा पहले नहीं होता था, लेकिन ऐसा अब मैं कोशिश करूँगा कि हो, ताकि आप लोग मेरे से जुड़े रहें, और आप लोग जो हैं constantly updated रहें about everything. In other news, in the time where I was away, we also launched merch. उसका भी मैं link जो है description में होगा. I didn't want to wear the merch on the first podcast back. That didn't make sense to me. I mean, come on. Even though my partners, so I partnered with manhus.pk, and they have wonderful stuff, quality clothes and other merch, mugs and all sorts of things. But they must be losing their minds right now. Okay, यार अपनी चीज़ है, इससे आपको literally माली फायदा होगा. But I'm just like, yeah, not the first podcast back though, right? Let's just let me just try and explain my situation first, and then hopefully in the subsequent podcasts we will wear some of that as well, inshallah. Quickly looking over my notes, because I do want to get into the 5 things that I learned over this year. So let's just get into it. So that's more or less the update. Now I'm in Hyderabad now. I am still trying to have a conversation with people so that they may give me their spaces to operate from. उसमें मसला ये होता है कि वो दे तो देते हैं, लेकिन either they'll charge money, right? Which is a fair bit of money that they charge, because you want to invite your guests to a nice space. You don't want them to come to a space where they're not comfortable. नहीं तो फिर गुफ्तगू कैसे होगी, right? And nice spaces cost a lot. Conversely, if they don't charge you, even if they do charge you वैसे, but especially if they don't charge you, तो फिर वो कम से कम आपके content में थोड़ा सा interfere करने की कोशिश करते हैं. Interfere is a strong word, and I don't use it casually, right? I don't mean any disrespect. ज़ाहिर उनकी जगह है, और वो नहीं देखेंगे तो कौन देखेगा, right? कोई मैंने ऐसी बात कर दी, मैं स्पेस से एसोसिएटेड हूँ, कोई मैंने ऐसी बात कर दी, एंड उनसे पूछने आगे कि भाई आपने इस बंदे को जगह कैसे दी. बीच में आई गॉट अ लॉट ऑफ फ्लैक फॉर डूइंग अ पॉडकास्ट विद देन मोहम्मद मुइज़, नाउ मेहरब. अगेन, and I didn't address it because I didn't understand what the problem was. मैं एक इंसान से गुफ्तगू कर रहा था. I did sign up to talk to everyone, inshallah. जो उनको तनकीद का निशाना बना रहे थे, हजरत या खातून थी, I would have spoken to them as well. I would have spoken to everyone. That was always the hope, is to convince everyone कि हम इतने अलग नहीं हैं कि एक दूसरे से बैठ के हम गुफ्तगू ना कर सकें. इतना अलग कोई भी नहीं होता है. क्योंकि I'll tell you this, and this part of my history I would like to stay in the past, but I've believed the opposite also. I've believed that there are people that you cannot have a conversation with, and that breeds hate, right? And that hate really eats you up inside. तो उम्मीद यही है कि that we just come together and that we can always just talk to each other, because we can. If we believe we can, we really can, right? But yeah, so I don't want to take any names, simply because अभी तक कुछ finalize नहीं हुआ है. अभी तक सब कुछ initial phases पे, but I've been talking to a lot of spaces. Okay, na, let's just do some version of the podcast, even if we don't want to do it proper old school जैसा होता था, where you had one guest at a time. Let's just do some version of it. You tell me, and we are brainstorming with people. All of that is happening, right? But again, because there's nothing's crystallized, मैं अभी कुछ बोलना नहीं चाह रहा, क्योंकि फिर बुरा लगेगा कि यार देखो वहाँ नहीं हुआ, or whatever else, right? So as it stands, we're just going to be doing this a lot more, inshallah. And who knows? That might be a good thing, might not be a bad thing, right? But yeah. So I am speaking to spaces. I am trying to get back to Karachi indefinitely. Lekin again, महंगाई hai, and financial ramifications are a thing. And I right now am not in the financial position to support a lifestyle of that sort. So here's to hoping that you guys support me like you have done in the past, inshallah. But here's to hoping that I do get financially independent, and then we can get this started again properly. But until then, we've 2-3 live podcasts हमने की. After the हमने 5 live podcast की. See, I forget how long ago the last podcast was. Uske baad we did a live podcast with Akbar Chaudhary. We did another one with Shehzad, the Shehzad Show. And uske baad we recently did one with Mr. Paki. His name is Bilal. And then the last one we did at Cedar College, we did with Muru bhai. And that was wonderful. All of those were wonderful, right? And people are, as they always have been, kind. Alhamdulillah. But khair, that's the update as far as me catching up with you is concerned. Again, you won't be shy. You can tell me in the comments what else I've missed, or if there was anything in particular that wasn't answered. These were just questions off the top of my head कि hypothetically ये सवाल तो कम से कम आपके होंगे कि यार आप जो है किधर थे और podcast किधर था और क्या हो रहा था. Now, if you skip that whole backstory, that's fine. These are the 5 things that I've learned since the podcast went into hiatus and I started making short form content in 2022. So, reading off my phone, the first one is, so long as you do not exceed a person's concept of you, they will applaud you. If you do happen to exceed said concept, that is when they will show you what they really think of you and in turn of themselves. और यहाँ पे कार्ल यूंग का quote भी है, everything that irritates us about others leads us to an understanding of ourselves. और हुआ कुछ ऐसा कि पॉडकास्ट में, टू हाइएटस, लॉट्स ऑफ पीपल, उन्होंने जो है बड़ा क्या बोलते हैं उसको, उन्होंने उन्होंने दुख का इजहार किया, उन्होंने बोला यार नहीं सही हुआ आपके साथ, मालिक मकान होते ही ऐसे हैं, वगैरह वगैरह, जो भी क्लीशेड बातें होती हैं. ठीक है, शॉर्ट फॉर्म कंटेंट बनाना शुरू किया, अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह कुछ वीडियोस अच्छी गई. सेम पीपल वर लाइक फैंटास्टिक, एंड these were people that were close to me, by the way, शुरू में. They were like ज़बरदस्त अच्छी आ रही है. Some of them did well, अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह, right? अल्लाह का करम है, मेरा तो इसमें कोई भी कमाल नहीं है ना. But some of them did quite well. All of a sudden, these same people who I thought were close to me, I thought were my friends, um, all of a sudden became passive aggressive. All of a sudden, started whispering sweet nothings and saying all sorts of things that didn't make sense. Like, हाँ, अब तो तुम बड़े आदमी हो गए हो, ये वो. But I've still been the same person. I didn't change at all, you know. And that was interesting, right? And that's why the first lesson that I learned was, as long as you don't exceed their concept of you, whatever that is, easy scene, right? But as soon as you do, right, as soon as you exceed their concept of you, all of a sudden it's a problem, right? And as I so often do, I turn to Irfan bhai for guidance. First off, I turned to him in apology. I was like, ये जो भी मेरे साथ हो रहा है, ये आपके साथ multiplied by 15 या multiplied by 20 होता होगा. So, I can't imagine how lonely you really are, how alone you really feel, even though, you have friends and family and all that stuff, alhamdulillah. I can't really imagine I couldn't possibly imagine before this, but even now I can't imagine how you really feel, and Irfan by typical Irfan by fashion, he's just like chilling, koi masla nahi. I was like, no, but I mean this, dude. And, in patent Irfan by words, he was like, देखे काजी भाई सर नीचे रखना है और इधर उधर की नहीं सोचें, बस काम करते जाएं आप अपना. Said something to Muru. He said something interesting also. I was like, I told him, I gave him this a whole context, and during our live podcast, I gave him this whole context, and I told him, I was like, I had to said to Irfan bhai, and Irfan bhai said this, and I think the same must apply to you. And he was like, हाँ यार, apply hota, but that's just because, again, this will be a good segue into my second point that I learned in 2022. But he was like, but that's because people don't know any better, right? Because they can't possibly. And Irfan bhai and Mehrub bhai are two very, very different people, very, very different characters. And I obviously look up to both of them. Irfan bhai also, alhamdulillah, happens to be a close friend of mine. Mehrub bhai I have only met a few times, but again, has been nothing but kind to me, right? Again, has been wonderful. Very, very different characters. Had a very similar kindness to the plight of strangers who are antagonistic towards them. जो लोग उनको तनकीद का निशाना बना रहे हैं, ना जानते हुए कि उनकी सूरत हाल क्या है, उनको तनकीद का निशाना भी बनाते हैं, एंटागनिज्म भी करते हैं, वगैरह वगैरह, यही सेल्फ कॉन्सेप्ट को जब वो एक्सीड करते हैं, क्योंकि इन लोगों ने तो एक्सीड कर ही दिया है अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह, एक्सीड करते हैं, तो वो उनको they'll say all this passive aggressive stuff. They're kind to them, right? And that struck me because I was not kind to. I didn't feel like, मतलब मैंने कुछ बोला नहीं किसी को. I didn't feel like being kind to these people. Like, why were they being antagonistic towards me all of a sudden because I was doing slightly well? Shouldn't your friends and shouldn't those close to you be happy that that you're doing what you're doing, that you're doing so well? It's not so well, by the way. It's just okay. Alhamdulillah. Some months are good. Some months are okay. Other months are not. Irfan bhai bolte hain हवाई रोजी होती है ये. And I agree. हवाई रोजी है ये. Allah रहम करे. And that then gauging what they were thinking about this. Ramesh bhai was another person who I spoke to about the same thing, and again, similar response. And I'm just like, यार आप लोग सब virtuous हो, शायद मैं बुरा इंसान हूँ, आप लोग सब इतने अच्छे हो, like, what's going on here, right? Um, and then what dawned on me was, I studied a long time ago the concept of famine mentality, right? Where these people who get antagonistic towards you, they get antagonistic towards you because they think अगर आपको किसी भी किस्म की चीज़ मिली तो उनके लिए किसी तरीके से कम हो जाएगा. वो ये चीज़ भूल जाते हैं कि हम सब अल्लाह ताला से मांग रहे हैं और अल्लाह ताला बेशुमार बादशाह हैं. उनके पास इज द इन्फिनिट किंग, राइट? तो उनके पास कमी तो हो ही नहीं सकती है ना. तो जितना मुझे चाहिए वो सब अगर मुझे मिल जाए, फिर भी आपको जो सब चाहिए वो मिलेगा इंशाल्लाह. ये तो ऐसे ही होना है. अल्लाह रहम करे. So anyways, then it dawned on me that this was famine mentality. And then I don't want to say I became as kind as these great people, mashallah say, but I suppose I softened a little bit. I was like, chalo, ठीक है, सही है, ये accept कर लेते हैं कि शायद इनको they don't know any better, and that's why they're being harsh and upsetting. Let's just think about it like that. So then the second thing I learned in 2022 was, and I've written it down here, genuinely inspiring people have a sincere kindness to them. So genuinely inspiring people have a sincere kindness to them, perhaps because they adhere to the concept of abundance mentality over the trappings of famine mentality. तो famine mentality का जो बरक्स या जो ऑपोजिट होता है वो होता है abundance mentality, और वो यही सोच होती है कि भाई सबको वो सब चीज़ मिलेगी जो उनको चाहिए, किसी के लिए कम नहीं होना है. It's gonna be all right. And yeah, I did feel that. I did feel that कि ये जो लोग हैं, and they did guide me, right? Because all of a sudden I was like, for the first time in a long time, I've been in the trenches, alhamdulillah. For the first time in a long time, I'm starting to, some people are expressing financial interest, right, in the content, and that means financial a move towards financial independence. But by no means am I there. I'm not even close. Allah rahim karega. Not with the merch, not with the paid content. लेकिन चलो उस तरफ गाड़ी चली तो सही ना थोड़ी सी. And these people want to be upset. These people don't want to be supportive now. The same people who were like, हाँ लगे रहो, अच्छा हो जाएगा. Now they don't want to, क्या अब अच्छा नहीं होगा? So, but yeah, abundance mentality. That's a powerful one. So moving on to the third one, and I've written it down. We in Pakistan certainly have a masculinity problem. None of us thinks we're man enough, not even the woman, and all of us want to be. My simple steps to being a man: try to tell the truth, take responsibility, be kind, be competent, and it does not do to be impotent. The goal is to be capable of responding, but to then withhold said response, right? जो I think ये 5 steps हैं. ये 5 steps के अंदर 5 things that I've learned के अंदर 5 steps हैं मेरे ख्याल में. But yeah, so the initial ones are pretty self-explanatory. Take responsibility. Tell the truth. जॉर्डन पीटरसन टॉक्स अबाउट दिस कि कम से कम झूठ ना बोलें. सच अगर नहीं बोल सकते तो कम से कम झूठ ना बोलें. टू योरसेल्फ एंड टू अदर्स. फ़ायदे में रहेंगे आप, क्योंकि झूठ आपको जो है दबा देता है. द लाइज विल बरी यू. अल्लाह रहम करे. टेक रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी. ज़िम्मेदार हों और ज़िम्मेदारी उठाएं, अपनी भी, अपने एक्शंस की, अपने अमालों की. अगर किसी से बदतमीज़ी की हो उसकी, अल्लाह रहम करे. ज़ाहिर है ये सब चीज़ें सबसे पहले मैं अपने आप को बोल रहा हूँ. गलतियाँ हो भी जाती हैं, गलतियाँ कर भी जाते हैं हम, लेकिन बहुत ज़रूरी है कि ज़िम्मेदारी उठाई जाए कि हाँ ये गलती मेरे से हुई. क्योंकि अगेन, एंड आई एम नॉट अ रिलीजियस स्कॉलर एट ऑल, राइट, बट इट इज़ सेड इन द कुरान दैट ऑल गुड इज़ फ्रॉम अल्लाह ताला, एंड ऑल ईविल इज़ व्हाट आवर हैंड्स सेंड फॉरवर्ड, राइट. तो ज़िम्मेदारी, जो बुराई है उसकी ज़िम्मेदारी तो उठानी पड़ेगी ना. अल्लाह रहम करे. उसके बाद था be kind. You don't have to be tough. You don't have to be. You can be tough, but you don't have to be rigid or cruel. ये चीज़ें करने से कोई मर्द नहीं होता है या मर्द नहीं बनता है. ऑन द कॉन्ट्रेरी, अगर आप काइंड होते हो, आई थिंक दैट शोज ट्रू मैस्कुलिनिटी एंड ट्रू मैनलीनेस एंड जस्ट गुड नेचर. बी कॉम्पिटेंट, एंड दैट मीन्स कि जो भी काम आप कर रहे हो उसके अंदर किसी किस्म की महारत हासिल करने की कोशिश करो. It doesn't matter if it's photography or videography. It doesn't matter if it's accounting or law, doctorate. It doesn't matter if it's carpentry. It could be anything. But you have to pursue mastery. You won't ever get it, because there's no such thing as perfect. But the pursuit will keep you whelmed. और वो जो आपकी जर्नी को क्या बोलते हैं उर्दू में, I'm trying कि मैं उर्दू भी बोलूँ. अल्लाह रहम करेगा. जर्नी को बोलते क्या यार, मंजिल नहीं, जर्नी. बहरहाल जो आपकी जर्नी है, that'll teach you a lot of things, right? And so that's important. And so you must be competent, and you must pursue competence constantly. And then it does not do to be important. का मतलब ये है कि हम जो ज़्यादातर मर्द होते हैं ना, पाकिस्तान में स्पेशली, कि पता नहीं क्यों हमने ये सोच लिया है कि ना जवाब देना किसी तरीके से काबिल एहतराम है. ना जवाब देना किसी तरीके से काबिल एहतराम है, लेकिन ना जवाब दे सकना, when you're not capable or able to respond, that's not something to be applauded. That's not something to be happy about or proud about कि यार देखो मैंने जवाब नहीं दिया. आप जवाब दे ही नहीं सकते थे, आप कुछ कर ही नहीं सकते थे. अगर आप कुछ कर सकते होते और आपने अपने आप को रोका होता, now that's worthy of respect, and that is worth striving towards. I could have done something. I could have said something. I could have been angry. I could have, pushed someone back if they were, trespassing against me or what have you. But I didn't. I withheld. That's patience, right? इस चीज़ को सब्र भी बोलते हैं, क्योंकि मैंने अपने आप को रोक लिया. So be dangerous is what I'm trying to say, and then control it completely. Don't act against anyone, but let them know and know in yourself that you could, but you're choosing not to. और मैं समझता हूँ इससे ज़्यादा बड़ी empowerment की कोई कैफियत नहीं होती है, ताकत की कोई कैफियत नहीं होती है कि देखें अल्लाह ताला ने आपको ये ताकत दी और ये सब्र भी दिया कि आपने वो ताकत नहीं इस्तेमाल की. So that's powerful, right? That was my that was the number third thing. Number third thing? Is that how you even say it? क्या हो गया मुझे, अल्लाह रहम करे. But yeah, that was the third thing that I learned in 2022. Oh, this one's मतलब लिखाई में थोड़ा सा गुस्सा आ रहा है. खैर, पढ़ के बताता हूँ आपको. Our sense of entitlement has tanked several industries. We want the best of everything, but we don't want to pay for it. Recently, we've seen the rise of journalists building their own YouTube portfolios and the like, and this comes with financial ramifications, and these people are criticized for it. So you want cutting-edge journalism, you want to pay for it, but you don't want to pay for it, and you don't want them to explore other avenues of income generation either. Right? Pretty self-explanatory. Pretty self-explanatory, right? But what's it called? Recently, some journalists have started doing really, really well on YouTube, and this was following, obviously, the previous government's ouster and then the installation of the current government. Installation is not the right word. The recent government coming into power and all those things. And so they're making money, right? And so they're making money. Why is that such a problem? Even if you पहली बात तो आप पैसे दे नहीं रहे हो उनको, या तो आप पैसे दो, right? फिर जब वो इधर उधर पैर हाथ मारने की कोशिश, पैर नहीं मारते, हाथ हाथ मारने की कोशिश करते हैं, क्योंकि हर किसी को अपना पेट पालना है, हर किसी को अपनी फैमिली पालनी है, हर किसी को किचन तो चलाना है ना। फिर आप उनमें नाराज़ भी होते हो, उनको तनकीद का निशाना भी बनाया जाता है। मैं समझता हूँ ये गलत, ये गैर मुनासिब है कि आप जो है इस तरीके से that you're going to not empathize with their needs at all, because how are they supposed to pay rent, how are they supposed to maintain their lives, how are their children supposed to go to school and so on, या उनके बच्चे स्कूल ही ना जाए, वो मतलब एक इतना मुश्किल पेशा जो है वो अपनाएं भी, उसको जो है सही तरीके से निभाएं भी, and they also shouldn't get anything for it. That doesn't make sense. Do you know what I mean? And so I would hope collectively moving forward, or at least this is my hope, and this is my observation, that we don't put our money where our mouth is, and we really ought to. तो अगर आपको अच्छी journalism चाहिए, pay for it, and if you don't want to pay for it, at least empathize with the person trying to make money. ये हमारे लोग ही बाहर जब जाते हैं, शायद उनका दिमाग खुल जाता है, शायद इतने स्ट्रेसेस नहीं होते जितने यहाँ पे, और वो इस बात को दे सीम केपेबल ऑफ एंटरटेनिंग दिस आइडिया, दे रियली सीम केपेबल ऑफ अंडरस्टैंडिंग द नीड फॉर फाइनेंशियल ramifications, द नीड फॉर फाइनेंशियल इंडिपेंडेंस। लेकिन यहाँ पे वही लोग इस बात को नहीं समझ सकते किसी तरीके से, and yeah, that baffles me, that confuses me, right? Because especially something as difficult as journalism, but really anything. Why are people not meant to pursue financial independence or agency or excellence for that matter? How does that not make sense? And we again, famine mentality वाली बात, आपको ऐसा क्यों लग रहा है कि they are somehow taking something away from you, right? Okay. बहरहाल, so moving on to this is going to be a hybrid point, and it has to do with cognitive capital, जिसको जहनी मिल्कियत भी कह सकते हैं, लेकिन cognitive capital is a phrase. I mean, it just means your mental resources, आपकी जहनी ताकत या आपकी जहनी सलाहियत कह लें उसको, क्योंकि वो फाइनाइट होती है, वो मतलब वो जो होती है इन्फिनिट नहीं होती है, उसका एक लिमिट होता है, और उस लिमिट को अगर आप प्रोटेक्ट नहीं करोगे तो तकलीफ होगी आपको. And so the first part of this hybrid fifth point from the 5 points that I've learned in 2022 is protecting your cognitive capital is not wrong, but it will not be pleasant. In the Pakistani context, it is common to take undue liberty with another person's mental resources, to the point where we almost expect certain resources to be made available to us at our preferred times. Protecting said resources is essential if you want to get anything done for yourself. Protecting said resources will mean saying no to certain gatherings, meetings, friendships even. This will be uncomfortable, and that's okay. Again, सेल्फ एक्सप्लेनेटरी, इस चीज़ को कितना ही मैं एक्सप्लेन कर लूँगा कि आपको कुछ मुश्किल गुफ्तगू, कुछ तल्ख बातें कहनी पड़ेंगी, कुछ मुश्किल गुफ्तगू करनी पड़ेगी, जस्ट टू लेट पीपल नो कि आप तकलीफ़ में हो और आपकी तकलीफ़ वो किसी तरीके से बढ़ा रहे हैं, राइट? एंड इफ़ यू डोंट स्टैंड अप फॉर योर सेल्फ, अगर आप अपनी जहनी ताकत या जहनी सलाहियत इस तरीके से जाने दोगे, तो मैं समझता हूँ आगे चल के सिर्फ रिग्रेट्स रह जाएंगे, आगे चल के सिर्फ अफसोस रह जाएगा कि अगर थोड़ी ज़्यादा जहनी ताकत होती, अगर थोड़ी ज़्यादा जहनी सलाहियत होती, तो कुछ और चीज़ें भी कर सकते थे, कुछ और डिग्रीज़ कर लेते, म्यूज़िक इंस्ट्रूमेंट सीख लेते, एक और दोस्तों के साथ ज़्यादा बैठ जाते, हंस के बात कर लेते, जो भी इस यहाँ पे आप जो भी अप्लाई कर लो. एक मिनट, ये ओवर हीट हो रहा है कैमरा, इट माइट शट ऑफ. अच्छा एक मिनट रुक जाए, इट्स नेवर डन दैट बिफोर. वैसे पता है भैया ओवर हीट क्यों हो रहे हैं आप? पर बहरहाल, लेट्स जस्ट कंटिन्यू गोइंग फॉरवर्ड, एंड खुदा ना खास्ता अगर कुछ होता है, आई सपोज जो स्टूडियो होता था उसमें एसी होता था ख़तरनाक किस्म का, एंड आई सपोज दैट्स द प्रॉब्लम. बट एनीवेज, hybrid point, the second point of second part of the fifth point is admitting that you don't know something is liberating. Due to the proliferation of the social medias, we feel pressure to have opinions. This has gotten so bad recently that when asked about a certain something, we piece together a point of view that we're not even sure about or invested in, and then go on to associate said opinion with our sense of self worth, where we feel the need to defend said point of view to whatever degree might be necessary. But that's just silly. Again, सेल्फ एक्सप्लेनेटरी, इसमें ज़्यादा मैं समझता हूँ एक्सप्लेन करने की कोई ज़रूरत नहीं है मुझे. बट आई थिंक अगर हम ये मान लें कि हमें नहीं पता है और हम अगर ये एडमिट कर लें कि ना हमें पता है और लेकिन हम सीखने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं, मैं समझता हूँ इस चीज़ में बहुत ताकत होती है. क्योंकि अगर आप इस तरीके से सोचो, ज़्यादातर इंसानी तरक्की की बुनियाद यही है कि कोई कहीं बैठा हुआ था और उन्होंने बोला यार इस सवाल का जवाब नहीं पता है मुझे, या इस मसले का हल नहीं है मेरे पास, लेट्स डू समथिंग अबाउट इट. नाउ अगर आप जो है यहाँ पे इस तरीके से सख्त होकर बैठे रहोगे और आप बोलोगे नहीं भाई मुझे तो सब कुछ पता है, या अपने आप को ये आप मानने नहीं दोगे कि आपको ये बात नहीं पता है, तो फिर कैसे चलेगा. सोचने की बात है ना. अगेन सेल्फ एक्सप्लेनेटरी. आई डोंट लाइक स्क्रिप्टिंग, बट मैंने इतनी ज़्यादा लिखाई कर ली थी कि अब इसको मैं और क्या करूं. बट या those were my 5 points, and I think I've come to the end of it. I hope I don't have to edit a lot of this or any of it, inshallah. I've said this to you before. We'll continue to hope and try कि हम पॉडकास्ट को जैसी थी वैसे उस तरफ ले चलें, फिर से गेस्ट बेस्ड मॉडल की तरफ, और गेस्ट जब आ सकेंगे आएंगे इंशाल्लाह. लेकिन मैं समझता हूँ अब इसको थोड़ा इस तरीके से भी इवॉल्व करते हैं कि हम एक दूसरे से गुफ्तगू करते हैं. सो द ईमेल एड्रेस इज़ Kazi, CALLAKAZI @gmail.com. Send me lengthy emails. Really give me context to your questions. Don't send me short questions. Send me long questions. Don't share any details. You don't have to, and I'll try to respond to them as well as I can, inshallah. Send me detailed summaries or synopses or paragraphs of whatever is going on in your life. I'll try to answer those questions, inshallah. There are links to everything in the description. You can get access to the email address through my Instagram also, Facebook, यहाँ से जैसे भी जहाँ पे भी आप सुन रहे हो. But कुछ लोग जो हैं वो all audio पे सुन रहे हैं, उनके लिए I will repeat again, Kazi@gmail.com. The merch is at Manhus PK. I don't make a lot of money off of it because I wanted it to be affordable. That's not saying anything except I want everyone to enjoy it, inshallah. अगर आप YouTube पे सुन रहे हैं तो उसकी भी description में link होगी, inshallah. As of right now, that's the update. And here's to hoping we'll start talking again consistently. Thank you for being with me. Thank you for staying with me. I do appreciate you, even though it might not seem like it sometimes because I disappear. I assure you I don't disappear because I want to. लेकिन सूरत हाल जैसी होती है वैसी होती है. Life moves at the speed of life. Until next time. Allah रहम करेगा.